Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. This beautiful Sunday afternoon here in the state of Maryland. I am Lisa Harwell, your host of Journeys with Jones Harwell. And today I have a spectacular gentleman with me. We're going to talk about some great things that he's been doing and his travels around the world. I'm going to call him Camp Cleveland, so I won't be messing up his name. But we are talking with today Taye Uhuru. He is a historian, an archivist, a genealogist, student of middle childhood education, and independent hip hop artist. He is also an author, has visited more than 45 states and 60 countries around the world. He has recorded and performed with musicians in the Netherlands, South Africa, Senegal, and several other countries. During his travels, he has studied abroad. In 2014, he spent time in the Dominican Republic. And while he was there, he'll talk about some of his other studies as well. He also has spent several years working with people who have developmental disabilities and tutoring children. He's participated in food drives rather, fundraisers, and gives back to schools as he can help individuals. And I believe he has two books. Is it two books or one?
I got one book.
And you have a couple of YouTube videos that I've also posted where people can go and see your music videos.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Queen.
You are welcome. You're welcome. So, Camp Cleveland, welcome to the show. How'd you get the nickname Camp Cleveland?
Oh, okay. First off, I just want to thank you. I really appreciate you, allowing me to come, on your platform. It's an
I
honor to
appreciate
be
it.
here.
Thank you. Thank you. You as
Yeah,
well. I enjoy talking to people.
thank you, thank you. Camp Cleveland. I'm from Cleveland. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just representing for my city. When I was doing music, it was like a little record label, and I was calling it Camp Cleveland. So the name kind of stuck over the years. So a lot of people refer to me as Camp Cleveland. So that's my handle on social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I'm Camp Cleveland.
What I like about you and what was so interesting about your bio that you sent to me is it's a question that sometimes I was asked or I see is how many black males have you had or black instructors have you had in your lifetime? And for my son, he could say several because we're right outside of Washington, D.C. We're in a dominant, African American community. So most of his teachers from grade school all the way through high school, he's had quite a bit. I grew up in West Texas. I grew up in Florida. I grew up in Alabama. I can count from 0 to 12th grade how many black instructors I had. Zero.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't have any till I actually moved to this area and went to college. And then I started to have black professors. So, what I love about you is historian, archivist, genealogist. That tells me that you have a love of history and a love of your people. Explain how that came about.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've always admired Black and African people. I think it started with my family. Over 100 years ago, my great grandparents they moved up to Cleveland from Atlanta, and my great grandfather he was a member of the UNIA in Cleveland. And my grandmother would tell me about him growing up. She would tell me about Marcus Garvey and the parades that they had on Central Avenue. She was the first person to tell me about that. So that's kind of where it started. Also, my uncle, he was the co-founder of the Afro set in the 1960s. So that was a Black nationalist organization. So, Black nationalism is something that runs throughout my family. A lot of pride, Pan Africanism, and things like that. So, my mom, she gave me my first Black history book, Black History A to Z.
Wow. Wow, that is in this I've had this flowing conversation, particularly, last month was Black History Month. And with the coming together of so many things that happened, uh, not only here in the United States last year, that a lot of people, blinders outside of ours came off. Okay. But it was a movement that started worldwide, that we started to see the same systematic approach to some of the things that we have been going through for several generations, hundreds of years. And it's interesting because I did watch Judas and the Black Messiah, and I had never heard of the gentleman. We always hear Jesse Jackson, we always hear about Martin Luther King, we always hear about Elijah Muhammad, and every that, but we never hear about some of the other leaders that particularly, and I am a product of the 60s, okay, of civil rights. I was 2 years old. So I'm,
Okay.
1962, so
Right.
that generation, and the history that we got and that we learned. Of course, my parents, I had parents that were believers of making sure we knew our history. I had
Hmm.
grandparents that also shared their stories with us, too. My great grandfather was a sharecropper, so that's just two generations, from
Right.
me, uh, or three generations, my father, his mother, her father. So, and even she started out, before she moved to Washington D.C. and then became a seamstress. But just some of the educational platforms weren't available. So, it's my generation of me and my brothers that are the college graduates. The traditions, starting then of getting the education. But I get disheartened with people that don't want to learn their history, because if we don't teach it, it's going to erase. It's going to get erased. And they want to erase it.
Yeah.
They want to tell only a portion of the truth. They don't want to tell the whole truth.
Yeah, definitely.
So, where are some of the places that you have studied? I see that you've been to more than 60 countries. So that means you love
Hmm.
to travel as well. Or did you have
Oh
opportunities
yeah.
to travel?
Oh yeah, I definitely love to travel. I studied abroad in the Dominican Republic in 2014. I studied abroad in Brazil in 2016. So I lived in these countries for a while. I lived in South Africa. I was in South Africa during the lockdown in 2020.
Oh boy,
Um,
how was
yeah.
that experience? Was that
Um, I mean,
frightening
despite
or
Well, I mean, despite, the pandemic, it was a great experience. Traveling to Africa is amazing. South Africa is an amazing place. So, unfortunately, we were locked down, but I was in a neighborhood. It was in Johannesburg called Maboneng. So it was an art district. It was a lively area. A
Mhm,
lot of artists, dancers, rappers, singers, photographers, and musicians live in this neighborhood, and it's murals all over the neighborhood, of great people: Marcus Garvey, Harriet Tubman, Malcolm X, Nelson Mandela. So, each day I would walk to the store or walk to get something to eat. I would be inspired and uplifted by these images. So I was still able to record music and shoot music videos. So, that kind of kept my spirits high during the lockdown.
mhm, mhm. And when you that is amazing, because I can count one place I've been overseas. So,
Oh
and
yeah.
I'm always in awe. Yeah, I went to uh, Okinawa, Japan,
Oh,
when I
okay.
when I was much younger, but my father was in the military, and most of his military service was done here in the States. So that was the one
Okay.
place that we got. Of course, I've been to a couple of the U.S. Caribbean countries, but hopefully, once the pandemic is over with and people can freely travel again, I do have some spots around the world that I definitely
Oh, okay.
get want to get to. Most definitely, I've been a lot of places in the US, but most definitely want to see some other sides of the world. And I think it's important that people recognize that there is a difference in cultures besides our own. Even though we have our problems here in the United States, when you travel abroad, sometimes you're not as free to do some of the things that we do here. And so it's always good to see how other people live.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a learning experience. I mean, some things are better. Something we have a lot of misconceptions about Africa. Africa has almost 60 countries. There's more countries in
Yes,
Africa than any other continent in the world. Africa is the most diverse continent in the world, but we tend to generalize it as one place. So we may see it's a war in Nigeria and we'll say, well, it's a war in Africa, but it's not necessarily the case. You know what I'm saying? So like
yes.
we Americans, like you say, we live in North America. They say we visit Canada, we visit Jamaica, we visit Mexico, we visit Haiti. Those places are totally different. The language is different, the food is different, the people look different, the weather is different. So many different things within those few countries. But when you go to Africa, Africa is 10 times more diverse than that. So it's dozens of African countries that are a lot safer than the United States, a lot safer than a lot of European countries. Lower crime rate, lower cost of living, less mass shootings, better quality of life, things like that.
Yeah. I had an acquaintance of mine. He is a trombonist, and
Okay.
he's worked with my son. My son is also a musician when he wants to be.
Right.
And I
Okay.
say that now because he's doing that transition, that last year of high school, trying to figure
Oh,
out what he
okay.
wants to do going forward. And
Right.
we're trying to tell him, please don't get rid of that God given talent that you have,
Hmm.
to play the guitar, because he's quite good at it. And
Oh, okay.
the trombonist actually just moved to Nigeria, moved his whole family
Oh,
to
okay.
Nigeria,
Wow.
and is loving it there. And I have friends that are originally from Nigeria, and always has extended, the invitation for us to come visit. Um,
Hmm.
when they go over, because they normally go December of every year, and they'll spend almost the
Hmm.
entire month of December in Nigeria. And so I've seen pictures, and it is beautiful, and
Oh,
it
yeah,
is quite
definitely.
amazing. Yes, so that's definitely one of the places that I want to visit. Nigeria. I want to hopefully make it to Morocco one day. I don't know what my fascination is with Morocco, but I just always wanted to go. You know,
Right.
And then I have a brother that's a shoemaker, and he normally goes to Italy, every year because that's his trade. So he'll go, he'll design his shoes, he'll make his shoes, and then he'll come back home.
Oh,
So
that's real cool.
it is the travel. It is the travel, and I blessed because my father at least opened our eyes to it, to the possibility to do it. So
Yeah,
not
that is a blessing.
yes, because most parents won't tell you, hey, go see the world, or hey, go experience
Right.
cultures. And even though we couldn't travel, part of his assignment with us growing up is that he would bring it to us. So if we couldn't go there, he would bring some of the cultures to us. So he had a standing tradition every Friday. He would, whatever he could find, the local uh, market that carried, whether it was Chinese, Korean, African, German, whatever he could find, he would go get the items, prepare the meal, or have the meal prepared, and then that was our Friday evening discussion and
Oh,
eating.
wow.
So,
That's
you know,
amazing.
yeah, it opened us to different, palates, for food once we grew up. So
Mhm.
we weren't scared to try new things. So that kind of gave us the courage too. Hey, maybe one day you'll go and actually visit these places. So I've had a couple of brothers that travel quite extensively, have been quite a few places, but none of us, I think, have been to Africa yet, and that's on our bucket list. So
Okay.
let's pivot from that and your love of that. And you say that you're, a genealogist and the archivist and historian. How do you transition, or how do you segue that while you're working with kids? And is it a specific age range that you're working with,
Mhm.
or how, how's that going?
I try to put it all together. So, for example, I do educational tours. I take groups to Africa. I take African Americans to different countries in Africa. So sometimes it's middle school students, high school students, college students. Sometimes young adults, sometimes elders. So I produce a lot of content. I have a YouTube page. I try to post a lot of positive content, that everyone can tune into. So I have videos of us going into the pyramids, the
Wow.
Valley of the Kings, the temples, the tombs, the doors of no returns, the slave dungeons, and different things like that. I try to make it educational for everybody. But I volunteered. I spent a lot of time working in orphanages, community centers, and different things like that.
Wow. And it's a difference to do it in person versus have you been to the Smithsonian here in Washington D.C., the African Americans Museum?
Oh, the museum, nah, the 2 times I was supposed to go, it was like something happened and we couldn't even go.
When you get the opportunity to go,
Yeah.
please visit. Also in this area, if you could make a whole tour of it. Um, the gentleman, I'm looking straight at his face, big Afro guy. His home is right in Washington, D.C. It'll come before the end of our conversation, or,
Mhm.
my mind sometimes is 10 days later. Oh, that's who I was talking about. But
Mhm.
Frederick Douglass, that's who.
Oh, okay.
Frederick Douglass' home is here in Washington, D.C. Also, Harriet Tubman is not too far out of Washington, D.C., too. She's in Cambridge, Maryland. So if you
Okay.
travel maybe about 90 minutes, I think it is, outside of Washington, D.C., you can visit
Okay.
Harriet Tubman, right where she was in Cambridge, Maryland, and part of the Underground Railroad from there, too. But the history
Ah.
here in DC, and I think that's what drew me back to DC as an adult.
Mhm.
I always came as a kid because my family, my grandmother lived here. But moving back as an adult, there's so much history in this city, free history, free
Mhm.
free history. So it's just amazing. So I love the idea that you've taken your travels and you've placed them on your YouTube channel for people to be able to visit these places that they can't ordinarily sometimes go themselves. And then you
Right.
have a travel agency, or you're working with a travel agency that once the pandemic is over, you'll go back and take tours of people.
Well, I've had tours this year, so we already, back in
Oh,
motion. I got a tour coming up. We going to Cape Verde soon, going to the west side. So some of the thing is, Africa wasn't as affected by the pandemic as the United States. The U.S. has like the highest rates of deaths and cases. So some of the African countries remained open during the pandemic, and some have reopened since. So in the last 3, 4 months, I've been to South Africa, Egypt,
mm.
Ethiopia, Dubai, and back and forth to the United States.
So let me ask the question, are they asking for like proof of that you've been vaccinated, or tested negative on the travel on their end? Because I know we're not really doing it here in the US.
Yeah, that is one of the requirements. So before you go to the next country, you would have to provide a negative COVID test.
Okay. Okay. playing it smart, playing it smart, playing it smart.
Yeah.
So with travel, with genealogy, with archivist, how does the music fit in and your passion and love for music?
Oh, okay. I mean, it fits in perfectly because, I try to write about things that are related to being, proud to be Black, African. My last song, Do Revolutionaries Go to Heaven? That was inspired, as I mentioned, by my neighborhood, Mabo name. Then before that, I had a song, The Blacker the Berry, the Sweeter the Juice. So I try to write about, lyrically conscious things, and the
Hmm.
history plays a major part in that. It
Hmm.
influenced me to write about positive things because we hear so many negative things and stereotypical things on the radio. You know, it gives me strength to write about other things.
So would you classify? I'm trying to do the hip hop thing because when hip hop started for me, I guess it was back with Run DMC
Mhm.
and some of the earlier artists. What would you label your uh, rap as? Is it more? My brother would say his favorite used to be Tribe Called Quest because
Oh,
they always
okay.
have a positive tip to come out with
Mhm.
their sound, and was kind of on the real educational side too as well. Uh,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to remember the other gentleman because I want to say, well, NWA, we know they were a little that South West Coast flavor, and
Mhm.
but I'm trying to remember the group that was on this end. KRS-One. That's who I was trying
Mhm.
to because he always has some knowledge that he's dropping every time he is
Right. Yeah.
coming out, and that used to
Definitely.
be a favorite of my brother's. He would say in a minute, Tribe
Mhm.
Called Quest and KRS. I'd be
Right.
like,
Right.
bring back R&B for me.
Yeah. Yeah. That's my music. It's kind of you know, I would compare it kind of like to that golden era of hip hop, like you say, Public
Mhm,
Enemy, KRS-One, X
mhm.
Clan, Poor Righteous Teachers, rappers that really had like a message, had something to say. You
Yes,
know what I'm saying?
yes, yes. I'm asking my son today, what are they saying? You know, the rappers he's listening to, I'm like, oh, okay, you lost me. You know,
Yeah.
you lost me. But then he'll pick up his guitar and he's blues. He'll
Right. Right.
do a BB King or Robert Cray. On you in a minute. But
Hmm.
his everyday is rap, is the rap, but the instrument is blues. I was like, I don't know how that happened, but thank you, Lord.
Right. Right. But that's a blessing to be able to,
So, what are
tap
some
into
things
different
that you've
genres
got
of
going
music.
on? Yes, he does, and we introduced him to it all. His dad's big jazz, uh,
Hmm.
all day, every day, hardcore, sometimes hardcore rock. That's his dad. Me,
Hmm.
everything else. So from
Right.
gospel to big band, I heard it. Growing up, blues, country, especially country and western, soft country, rock country. Growing up in the South, we got a lot
Hmm.
of that. So, what are some events that you have coming up, or things that is going on for you now outside of traveling? You said you're getting ready to do another travel trip. So, what else have you
Hmm.
got going on?
Um, my main focus has been my book. I just recently released my book a couple of months ago. The
Okay.
title of the book is called The Afro Set, and this was an organization that was co-founded by my uncle in Cleveland in the 1960s. So this organization, it was like a Black Power organization, and they were at the forefront of introducing African Americans to African history and African culture.
Mm,
They opened up shops, and inside of the shops, they would sell like dashikis and Afrocentric necklaces and earrings and jewelry and pottery and paintings and masks and different things like that. But they also had classes. They would teach Swahili. They would teach self-defense. They
mm,
would teach you how to play the African drums. They had classes on drug awareness, economics, you know, sickle cell, diabetes, and stuff like that. They built a theater. My uncle was a poet, so they would have poetry readings, they would have fashion shows, musical performances, and different things like that, you know. So
That sounds amazing. And that's one of the things that we talked about too, as our generation and beyond us got to the self where we started to move away from some types of entrepreneurship and people will argue, that segregation may have been the worst thing to happen to us because we got away from our villages of teaching our kids of having those safety nets, for them within our own community, for them to see and go to places that showcased, our culture a lot. So that's really great, to do that in your book. So how would people be able to purchase your book?
oh, okay. I'm doing it independently. They can purchase my book from my website. It's campcleveland.org, or they can contact me on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube at Camp Cleveland.
Okay, I'm writing as we're.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, it's a very exciting book. It's a lot of uprisings, shootouts, rebellions, and a lot of positive things too. It was more family orientated than an organization. A lot of brothers and sisters and parents brought their children into the Afro set. Some people met in the Afro set, and children were born into the Afro set. They had a nursery. They had breakfast programs, lunch programs. They
Wow.
did a lot of community patrolling. If pimps
Yes.
came into the community, they would run them out. If drug dealers came into the community, they would run them out. If police were brutalizing people, they would confront them. So
Do you see maybe that we would be turning back to that type of enforcement or collective taking care of our own, particularly in the last year with COVID-19 kind of shutting everything down and everybody taking a little retrospective look at how busy life has gotten in things of police brutality, of course, that we still are working on getting changes for. But a lot of people don't, understand, or a lot of people have this mindset that, well, I don't vote because nothing changes anyway. And my first response always to that is you have to start at the local level. You have to participate at the local level. You have to be engaged and get involved where you live. If you don't like something, run. Run yourself. And we're seeing proof positive of that, of a lot of new members coming to Congress with that attitude to make change, to help change policies. Um, what is your take on that?
um I definitely agree with you. I mean, I think it's important to establish a relationship locally. Like, I know my councilman. I know him personally. The councilman before him, I know him personally. So I've worked with them. I sat down with them. I can call them. You know what I'm saying? And I was able to do more, at least for my community. I think that's the best place to start. I mean, it's mandatory if we really want to push for change.
Hmm. And I like that you're leading the forefront in your area in Cleveland in doing that with all that you have uh, dived yourself into and presented out to the world. So, on YouTube, do you have a YouTube channel? Is that also called Camp Cleveland?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Camp Cleveland.
Let me spell right here. I'm definitely going to be checking out your channel.
Oh, okay. I appreciate that. Yeah, you definitely gotta be involved in the community. We co-founded a food co-op. I was the president for about 2 or 3 years. We just got a grant for like $60,000 because
Wow.
last year we was delivering food and supplies to people during the pandemic. Things like that. I work with a lot of local growers, farmers in my community. They're urban farms, but
Mhm.
I know these people personally. I go and I volunteer, and we have classes. We have health and wellness classes, similar to what my uncle and them was doing. I'm just trying to
Yes.
implement
I,
those
I
things
see
because I.
I see your
Mhm.
parents got you strong in it, strong in it. And it's
Right,
good
right,
you were so positive and so motivated to keep that up because a lot of times things get introduced to youth and as soon as they turn 18 or they think they're an adult and they're grown, they're like, I don't want no more of that. you know and the years go
right,
by and then all of a sudden they're like, you know what, I need to go back and pick something up. but
right. It'll come back around. You're right. It is.
but it's
It is stick
good.
with you.
Right. It's good to, as long as we're still breathing, we still have the
Hmm.
opportunity to be a part of change and to make change, which is the best thing. So don't think that you missed it on the first go round, that you might not have an opportunity to come back and be something positive on the next go round.
Definitely.
Yes, yes, yes. So are you interested in writing another book after this one? Or is there going to be a part two to the Afro set?
Um, I'm not sure if I'm going to write another book just right now. When I was writing the book, I did a lot of interviews. I interviewed over 100 people, a lot of elders, because I live in the same community where my uncle, you know what I'm saying, founded the Afro set. So this is one of the most revolutionary areas, not only in Cleveland, but in America. A
Wow.
lot of riots and uprisings took place in
Mhm.
my community. So I was able to sit down with a lot of the elders and I filmed a lot of it. And I'm an archivist, so I have a lot of old footage from the 60s, a lot of old newspaper articles and FBI files and documents. So I think the next thing that I want to do pertaining to the Afro set, I'll try to make it into a documentary. And then after the documentary is done, and maybe, it could be like the Judas and the Black Messiah. Maybe they may make a movie about it or something.
Well, I tell you what, I'd love to have an offline conversation with you as well, because
Okay.
there is a group that we've put together here in the Washington D.C. area. Two different projects that I've
Okay.
been asked to participate on. One of them, we're looking to go into the schools, and the name of the nonprofit group, and I'm going to blast her name out, May Green, a mentor of my son's, but she has a nonprofit group that she's starting called Advocates for the number four history. And she is
Mm.
a huge history buff, education,
Okay. Okay.
education, education. And we're looking to do a platform of US and African history,
Oh wow. Okay.
meshing them. So you and I need to have a conversation with her,
Yeah,
and I'll
definitely.
definitely hook that up with her uh,
Okay.
and get her schedule. The second thing, there is a beautiful young lady that lives here, and I say young lady, she's 80 years old.
Oh, okay.
She lives here in Washington, D.C., and she is the founder of a group here that's called DC Legendary Musicians. So she is archiving all of the musicians that have come out of the Washington, we call it the DMV area. So it's Washington,
Okay.
DC, Metropolitan Maryland, Metropolitan Virginia area, from Duke Ellington to Marvin Gaye to all the jazz artists to some of the rock artists. Dave Grew, I think, is one that he used to be with the. Was he with the Foo Fighters? I believe so.
Mm.
Um, so she has archived that. And that's her diligent work. The second thing that she was, or some upcoming projects that she was also working on, is rhythm and blues, documenting that, and then documenting Washington D.C. Because as you know,
Mm.
back in the '60s as well, a lot of our predominant cities, so Atlanta, Cleveland area, Chicago, Washington, D.C., New York City. These were hotspot beds of where Black communities were organizing and getting together what people may refer to now as Black Lives Matter. But even
Hmm.
back in the early 60s, that whole movement of the Rainbow Coalition, I could remember when I moved to DC, even though I didn't finish my college education until a few years ago, but I can remember marching for DC statehood, you know, pictures of Jesse Jackson there, DC for statehood, having the conversations because, and now all the gentrifications that's happening in a lot of our cities, you
Definitely.
know, because, they're pushing us now out to the suburbs because we can't afford the taxes. We can't afford the property. You push us into neighborhoods where, the grocery stores, are more convenient stores than true grocery stores that have fresh produce, you know, uh,
Hmm.
a lot of fast foods instead of bringing, put a Whole Foods, put some healthy restaurants where people can go eat
Hmm.
and afford it. Okay, instead of saying I've got $40 and on $40, it's easier for me to go buy a bucket of chicken because it's
Hmm.
cheaper than to go to
Hmm.
the store and buy, okay, I'm going to buy, fresh chicken, fresh carrots, fresh corn, or, greens, fresh greens that would come in, to eat or peas. Um, so that's, the history there. And I like that. I like that. So offline, I know I'll be talking to you some
Okay.
more. We'll
Right.
be
I look
having more
forward to
conversations.
it.
Yes, indeed. Because just because I'm in Maryland doesn't mean I can help you with the history in Ohio.
Oh
And
yeah,
just
no, we right.
doesn't
We'll
mean
put it
that you
together.
can't have something that we could use and benefit on this end. And that's really what
Definitely.
it's all about. It's really, really what it's all about is the conversations and the journeys that we have in life and what we do while we're, on this earth for the little time that we have. Because it really is little
Exactly.
time. If we think about it, it's just little time,
Exactly.
in the
Yeah.
grand schemes of things. So, you want to, when you do your rap, is it freestyle? I'm gonna let you end our show. So, if you want to showcase something
Oh.
here a little bit, maybe.
No, no, I ain't gonna freestyle. I prefer if you can, if they could just check out the video because I
All
put,
right.
a lot of imagery in my videos, like I say. So it's a lot of positive images of strong black women, strong black men, courageous freedom fighters. I think that amplifies, the message that I'm trying to, you know.
Okay. And one more time, I'm going to ask you for the names of the videos because I'm gonna type them in right here.
Okay.
So, the first one I know ended in revolution. So, give me the first part.
Okay. Do revolutionaries go to heaven?
To revolutionaries. I love that title.
Oh, thank you.
Make sure I'm spelling right. That does not look right because it's all highlighted. Okay. Nice thing about being a writer, I'm looking for my dictionary because I know I normally carry it on my desk, but since it's not on my desk, guess what? I'm going to my phone because I want to make sure I type this in correctly. Revolution. Oh, okay. I see what I did wrong now. Once you start typing something somewhere else, do revolutionaries go to heaven? That's the first one, right?
Yes.
Blacker the berry, sweeter the juice is the second one.
Yeah, the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice.
And to get a copy of your book, which is called The Afro Set, people can reach out to you on your website, campcleveland.org, or on any social media platform, Camp Cleveland.
Yes.
All right. This has been awesome. This has been awesome. We have definitely have to talk again, especially on the history tip, because
Okay.
I am a firm believer of knowing your history, knowing your history, and I put my time and effort into knowing that as well. Um, because, like I said again, if we don't do it, who's going to pass the torch? And our history, from me being a teenager, seeing my son as a teenager to what's being taught. Wow, big gaps, big gaps. So I appreciate you taking the time to visit with me today. You are an awesome young man. Keep doing what you're doing. We definitely will be talking again, and come back and share with us as you're doing new projects. And how would people reach you? Would they reach you on your website too if they were interested and they're in the area to travel?
Oh yeah, definitely. Please feel free to reach out and contact me. Facebook, Instagram, or on the website is fine. If you have any question about the educational tours or about the book or about the music, it's all available on my website. Also, I bring different items back from Africa and different parts of the world. So I have dashiki, shea butter, black seed oil, necklaces and earrings and things like that. Sometimes people want special requests. They may need a certain dress size or a certain fabric. You can do that also
All
on the
right.
website.
This
And
has
thank you
been,
again, Queen. I truly appreciate you.
hey, I love this. I love this because you brought a piece of Africa to us today, this afternoon. Out of all the places you visited, and I'm going to leave you on this tip, what's been your most favorite?
It's hard. I mean, Africa is my favorite, definitely. I've been to almost 20 African countries, so like I say, it's very diverse. I like the west side of Africa. Cape Verde is real nice. It's 10 islands, black sand, blue water, green water, very beautiful, low population, hot all year. Ethiopia is beautiful, very beautiful people, great food, great music and culture. South Africa is amazing, so it would definitely be Africa.
Mhm. And you said people would be really surprised at just how different, safer the countries are, and some of the differences between us and there.
Yeah, it's information you could look up. I mean, if you just Google it, most times things about Africa, something negative will pop up. But
Mhm.
each year, the United Nations they rank each country in the world. You know what I'm saying? They do a global peaceful index. So you will see dozens of African countries like Ghana, Botswana, um, Namibia, Cape Verde are 2, 3 times safer than the United States. Like in comparison, if you visit a city like Baltimore or DC or Cleveland or Detroit, you know, it's cities in Africa that have just as many people, but they are a lot, what I'm saying, a lot safer. And you could check the United States Department of State and Travel as well. They have a website. So
Okay.
anytime if a American dies abroad in the country, they make you know, it's listed, so you can look all of these things up.
Mhm. Very, very great information that you have provided today. Just wonderful, wonderful information. Thank you so much for reaching out to me.
Hmm.
I'm glad because as soon as you was like, "Hey," and like I said, when you sent me your bio, I was like, "This is one young brother I have got to talk to because you really, really do have it going on, and I appreciate you being one of the leaders." not only in your community, but you're showing, around the world just what you have to offer and what you have to offer to young kids coming up behind you and adults much older than you, to show them, hey, look what's out here. Look at what's out here. It's not
All
just
right.
America and concrete.
Right, right. All right. Till next time, Queen. Thank you.
Yes, yes. So thank you so much, everyone. This is going to wrap up our show for today. I want to thank Camp Cleveland for coming on and dropping some knowledge on us. I will be back on the air tomorrow evening. I will be talking to my signature entrepreneurs and mastermind sister, Courtney Lee Smith. If you guys want to hear somebody who is a dynamic talker, faith believer, faith walker, check out our show tomorrow evening. Once again, enjoy your Sunday. I will talk with you guys soon, and be on the lookout. I'll be getting in touch with you within the next couple of days so we can talk more history, because we got some work to do, you and I.
All right.
All right,
Peace.
everyone. Enjoy your evening.
Peace.
Peace.